If you are around my age or a little younger than me, you definitely know this one. The Slenderman. For everyone else, in the early 2000s and 10s, the Slenderman was a huge topic. He is the protagonist in several video games, videos, and somehow he has also become a meme. But despite all his popularity, there is also a lot of criticism of this fictional character. And it is precisely this criticism that is perhaps the reason why the Slenderman is hardly ever talked about anymore. But there are also some teenagers who saw more in the Slenderman than just a character. Namely, an inspiration to kill. It's 2014, and the Slenderman has been a constant part of internet culture for a few years now. Originally invented for a photo contest, the Slenderman went viral pretty quickly. The depiction of the Slenderman with long, scrawny limbs and no recognizable face makes him look quite creepy, quickly placing him among cult figures like Ghostface or Jigsaw. There is also a fairly popular free horror game. In the game, you have to walk through a dark forest and escape the Slenderman. If he catches you, you get a jump scare. The game was downloaded millions of times and there were tons of Let's Plays on YouTube. There was a real Slenderman hype. And this hype also reaches the small town of Waukesha in the US state of Wisconsin. The friends Morgan Geyser and Payton Isabella Leutner live there. Morgan and Payton have been best friends for as long as they can remember. In the same apartment block as Morgan lives a girl called Anissa Weier, who is the same age. Anissa quickly befriends Morgan, which is how she then also meets Payton. Payton finds Anissa somehow strange. She has the feeling that the other girl doesn't like her very much. But because Morgan likes Anissa so much, Payton bites the bullet and says she has nothing against Anissa being at their meetings. Anissa and Morgan share a common hobby. The two of them spend hours looking at creepypastas on the internet. All kinds of horror content that can be found online. And at that time, this also included the Slenderman. Payton, unlike her friend, finds the whole thing rather creepy and prefers to stay away from videos and games about the Slenderman. Her friends Morgan and Anissa, on the other hand, are completely caught up in the Slenderman lore. And apparently the two girls are unable to distinguish between fiction and reality. Either they can't accept that the Slenderman isn't real, or they don't want to. The fact is, for Morgan and Anissa, the Slenderman is real. And as fascinated as they are by him, they are also very afraid of him. The girls believe that the Slenderman lives very close to them, in a large mansion in the Nicollet National Forest in northern Wisconsin. They are afraid that the Slenderman will come to their house and do something to them, or to their families, because they believe that the Slenderman could teleport to them immediately, that he reads their thoughts and is following them. And that's why Morgan and Anissa have made a decision. They want to do something that they think the Slenderman would like. This way, they can kill two birds with one stone. Firstly, they can ensure that the Slenderman is on their side and won't harm them. And secondly, they can finally prove that the Slenderman really exists. They also have a very specific idea of how to gain his favor. They will make a sacrifice to him. On May 30th, 2014, Anissa and Payton are allowed to spend the night at Morgan's house. It's Morgan's birthday, and every year she's allowed to invite two friends over for a little sleepover party. This year, it's her best friend Payton and her neighbor Anissa. What Payton doesn't know is that Anissa and the birthday girl Morgan have conspired against her. In their search for a victim for the Slenderman, Anissa and Morgan have chosen their mutual friend Payton. Anissa has not only a change of clothes in her backpack for the sleepover party, but also water and a few cereal bars. Provisions for a hike. She and Morgan plan to meet the Slenderman in person the next evening. Apparently, Anissa does not expect to return to her family afterwards. She packs a photo of her parents and siblings. Apparently, she does not want to forget her family when she goes to see the Slenderman with Morgan. But before that can happen, Morgan's birthday will be celebrated as usual. The girls are going roller skating together on May 30th, and then spending the night at Morgan's house on May 31st. The weather on May 31st is really good. At breakfast, Morgan's mother suggests that the girls spend the day outside in the park. The three of them agree and set off for David's Park on Southeast Avenue. It comes in handy for Morgan and Anissa. The two had already thought about the previous evening that the public restroom in David's Park would be a good place to commit a murder. But when the girls actually find themselves in that very restroom a few hours later, Morgan and Anissa back out. Unfortunately, only for the time being. They want to wait for the perfect moment to kill their friend in the back. Back outside, Anissa suggests playing hide and seek, the perfect excuse to attack someone without being suspected. And then it happens. Morgan is the first to search. Anissa and Payton are hiding together. Anissa suggests to Payton that she should lie face down on the ground and make herself very small so that Morgan can't find them. Payton replies that she doesn't feel like getting all dirty just for a game of hide and seek. At that, something inside Anissa snaps. She pushes Payton to the ground and sits on her. While Anissa is holding Payton down, Morgan arrives. But before Morgan can pull out the knife she brought, Payton starts screaming. She can't breathe. Anissa lets go of her and gets up. Morgan gives the knife to Anissa, but she gives it right back to Morgan. Both girls are still hesitant. But ultimately, the urge to please the Slenderman apparently wins out. Anissa urges Morgan to go completely crazy. And that's exactly what Morgan does. Morgan stabs Payton several times as she still lies on the ground. Payton tries to get up and run to a nearby road, but Anissa holds her arm tight and thus brings the heavily bleeding girl down again. Payton is losing a lot of blood. She has a total of 19 stab wounds. She can't get up again, she can't see anything, and she can hardly breathe. Anissa says she and Morgan will go for help. This is a lie, of course. Morgan wipes the knife clean and puts it in her bag. Later, she will say how surprised she was that she didn't feel the slightest remorse at that moment. Anissa and Morgan now set off on foot in the direction of Slenderman, leaving Payton behind. Miraculously, Payton has managed to drag herself through the park to the street. She lies in the middle of the road, hoping that someone will find her in time. Fortunately, that is what happens. A cyclist finds the girl. Payton is conscious, but her breathing is very shallow. She can hardly move and barely speaks. When the cyclist asks her who hurt her so badly, she remains silent. He calls 911 and stays with the 12-year-old until the paramedics arrive.
911. What's the address of your emergency?
Waukesha County, Lynn. I'm transferring over a caller on Big Bend at the dead end just south of Rivera.
Okay.
Came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be...
She appears to be what? Stabbed?
Correct.
Okay.
Sir, are you still there?
Yes.
Hi, sir. So are you with this 12-year-old female?
Yes, she says she's having trouble breathing. She said she was multiple times.
And that saves her life. The operation takes more than 6 hours and challenges even the most experienced doctors. If the knife had penetrated Payton's body just a hair's breadth further, she would have been dead instantly. Hours later, police pick up Morgan and Anissa on the side of the road. They have now walked around 8 kilometers from David's Park and have reached Interstate 94. When asked where they were going, the girls said they wanted to visit the Slenderman. But instead of going to the Slenderman, the two of them went straight to the nearest police station. When Morgan and Anissa were interrogated, both girls hemmed and hawed a little at first. Eventually, however, Anissa came clean and told the police what had happened. Morgan essentially confirms Anissa's story. She says she believes that Anissa stabbed Payton at least once, too. When the police officers ask the girls why on earth they would hurt their friend so badly, they reply, "For him, for the Slenderman." For him, they not only wanted to hurt their friend Payton, but to murder her. Fortunately, Payton is able to recover well from her serious injuries, at least physically. While she is slowly getting better, the question for the judiciary is what will happen to her attackers. Although Anissa and Morgan are only 12 years old, they are being tried under adult criminal law for attempted first-degree murder. However, shortly thereafter, concerns were raised about the girls' mental capacity. A number of psychiatric assessments are due, which should first determine whether the children can really be tried under adult criminal law. And should the girls be sentenced under juvenile law, they would only have to spend 2 years in prison for the attempted murder of their friend. After that, there would be state monitoring until they turned 18, and that would basically be it. Morgan is diagnosed with schizophrenia before the trial. According to the experts, this may be genetic, because Morgan's father had to undergo inpatient treatment for it several times as a teenager. The schizophrenia could at least partly explain why Morgan was so sure that the character Slenderman was real. During the interrogation, Morgan says that she has always had imaginary friends that no one but her could see or hear. Her mother reports that Morgan sometimes behaved like a cat and said she had seen unicorns. She says that her daughter repeatedly had conversations with fictional characters. For example, with Severus Snape and Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter, or even with the Slenderman. Many are surprised when the court decides to charge them as adults despite Morgan and Anissa's obvious mental health issues. Both promptly plead not guilty by reason of mental incompetence. In the end, a joint solution is found without a trial. Anissa must spend at least 25 years in a secure clinic. The period of detention between the crime and this decision is taken into account, so Denise would be released shortly after her 37th birthday. Morgan gets 40 years to life. But in the end, everything turns out a bit differently, because Anissa's detention ends in 2021, when she is just 19 years old. Apparently, she showed the judge and staff at the clinic that she understood her crime and regretted it. Anissa has been free again ever since, at least on paper. Nevertheless, she is still supervised by psychiatrists and has to consult with the relevant professionals regularly until she turns 37. She also has to follow certain rules. For example, she is not allowed to use social media, has only limited access to the internet, and has to get permission to leave her hometown. She must also live with her father until she turns 37 and is not allowed to register her own apartment. Morgan also regularly applies for release. The requests are rejected multiple times, until January 2025. Several experts have determined that Morgan has made enough progress to warrant release, and that despite the fact that a book entitled Themes of Sexual Sadism and Murder was recently found in Morgan's possession. Nevertheless, the doctors believe that Morgan could be released. At the time of recording this video, the hearing has not yet taken place. If Morgan were released, he would have to live in a residential group until 2058 and would be under permanent medical supervision, similar to Anissa. But now the most important thing. How is Payton doing? Of course, Payton still has scars, both physically and emotionally. But the girl fought hard to get back to full health. Although she only just escaped death, she was able to be discharged from hospital in May 2014 after just 1 week. In September of the same year, she went back to school as normal. In an interview 5 years after the attack, Payton was asked what she would say to her former best friend Morgan if they were to meet again. This is what she would say. "I would probably start by thanking her. I would say that it is only because of what she did that I have the life I have now. I like it a lot and I have a plan. I didn't have a plan when I was 12 and now I have one because of everything I've been through. I didn't think I would ever say this, but someone who's been through what I've been through. But that's really how I feel. If it wasn't for this whole situation, I wouldn't be who I am." That's the end of today's video. A really intense case. In the wake of what happened to her, Payton made an appeal to parents. It's essential that legal guardians talk to children about how to use media properly and explain the difference between fiction and reality very clearly. This is advice that I would unreservedly recommend. What about you guys? Do you remember the hype around Slenderman back in the day? Was there ever a character from games, movies, or books that really scared you too? Feel free to write it down in the comments. By the way, you also support the channel that way, because any interaction increases the likelihood that the video will be suggested to people who have not yet subscribed to Insolito. Otherwise, there's not much more to say. I wish you a good morning, noon, or evening, or whenever you watch the video, and hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, ciao guys.